I'm an educator, and I have a lot of students who are really worried about the amount of debt that they have at the end of their university. And so I'd like to know, what would you do when you come into power for students?
For students when it comes to student debt. Well, as you're well aware, tuition fees for Lib Democrats is a bit of a hot topic. Tuition fees were introduced by the Labour Party, but when obviously the coalition took over, we wanted to scrap them, but unfortunately, in coalition with the Conservatives, we weren't able to. One of the good things, professionally, I'm a financial advisor, so I do actually advise people on when it comes to student loans. The thing to think about them is actually they're not technically classed as loans. So if you go for a mortgage, they're not going to put that amount of student debt and say you've got £50,000 or £60,000 of student debt, but it will go towards what's called the affordability criteria. So what effectively they work as at the moment is a graduate tax. So when you earn over a certain threshold, which is around about, I think it's just under £24,000 at the moment, anything above that is taxed at an additional 9%. When the Labour Party brought these in to begin with, they were deciding whether they wanted to call it a loan or whether they wanted to refer to it as a graduate tax. They thought that an additional tax was less palatable by saying that this is a loan, you invest in yourself and then you pay it off. What I would say is, if you want to go to university and if you want to improve yourself and improve your life, you shouldn't allow student debt to hold you back to do that. If you never reach that threshold, you will never pay a single penny of that student loan back. Likewise, there is a time limit at the moment. Now, unfortunately, the Conservatives have moved that from 30 years to 35 years, but at the end of that period, your debt will be written off. So if you imagine this is, you invest in yourself, you will pay an additional amount of tax for 30 years if you earn a certain amount. And if you don't earn that amount, you're never going to pay that. So I would really implore your students to get out, do what they need to do, get themselves to university, improve themselves, and not feel like this is an albatross, a burden, albatross around their neck, a burden to do that. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, no, thank you very much for that. And yeah, lots of aspiring students are concerned, and the fact that you clean out, very nice.
One other point here, and this is actually more from a sort of professional point of view, the other side is, when it comes to student loans, there's two parts to it. There is the actual tuition fees, which is the big hot topic, but actually the maintenance side of the loan is another thing that people don't consider. What happens there is that your eligibility for a maintenance side of the loan is dependent upon your parents' income and your parents' joint income. So if your parents earn over, I think it's around 65,000 at the moment, you will not be entitled to take out a section of the loan in order for your upkeep and your accommodation, books, food, living expenses. So what the government are saying is, we're not going to expect to support you through university, your parents are. So the thing that I always say to people is, if you're a parent and you have children that you want to go to university, understand that the government expects you to support them in their living expenses, that they'll not be able to use a student loan to do that. And it is probably a good idea to start putting things into place to be able to do that, because a lot of people get there and they go, I can afford the tuition fees, but I can't afford the living expenses. Add a cost of living crisis on top of that, and I think that's probably going to be the biggest thing that will hold young people back from bettering themselves, going to university, and making the most of their lives. Because that's what Liberal Democrats stand for. We stand for people living their best possible life, and with the greatest possible freedom. And education is a source of freedom.
Thank you.